Video essays can come in many different shapes and forms, like green screen, animated, relying heavily on set deck and clothing. There's PNG tubers, animated PNG tubers, on-the-ground journalism, popsicle stick puppets. One of the best things, hands down, about video essays and just videos on the internet in general is that they can be presented in just about any visual form you can possibly imagine and be about anything. But the least interesting part of most video essays is the intro. We all know what kind of intro I'm talking about. You click on a video only to be immediately bombarded with the most basic, rudimentary outline of the video's topic as a definition to a word we already know slowly starts to fade in. No one straight up acknowledges it, but a decent chunk of the time, the intro is almost always just something we have to sit through in order to get to the good stuff. Like, I don't need to explain to you what a video essay is. We all know what a video essay is. Or do we? I know it sounds stupid, but it is actually hilariously difficult to pinpoint what exactly constitutes as a video essay or not, and I gotta make sure we're all on the same page first, you know? A video essay is, by definition, a video about something, which narrows that down to every single video on this entire platform. That's great. This is not a joke either, by the way. The literal first line on the Wikipedia entry for essay notes that it is so vague and open to interpretation that without context, it doesn't really mean much. So let's narrow it down further by saying that a video essay is a video exploring a theme or idea while attempting to justify and explain its own thesis statement. That seems reasonable. But if that's the case, wouldn't reviews also count as video essays? If a review's thesis is insert game is good/bad/complicated and covers the nuances of it with research and evidence, does that not, fit the definition exactly? Is the only real difference between a video essay about a game and a review the label assigned to it in the title? Is it how seriously it takes itself, how widely it compares itself to other forms of media, the video game's history, its length? Is the only hard line between the two just giving it a score at the end, or is it just intent from the author? Captain Disillusion makes video essays. Kind of. There's not really a thesis statement half the time, and it's half a tech history lesson, half a tutorial. So what genre is this exactly? Are Summoning Salt and Illusory Wall documentarians? Is Internet Historian a journalist or a shit poster? Is the entire history of the world, I guess, a video essay? A documentary? A musical? And what the fuck is Tom Scott? What about every edutainment channel? Would that or would that not qualify as a video essay? It is actually a surprisingly difficult question. Attempting to neatly assign channels to a singular label, things often end up getting kind of really blurry really quickly, so we just gotta accept that there is a lot of overlap, and that's okay. Personally, and for the sake of this video, I would define a video essay as any informative video presented by a dork with too much passion for a specific subject, exploring a theme or idea while attempting to entertain, teach, and show the audience a new perspective on said subject. It is a pretty large umbrella, but I think it's a good starting point that could be cut up into a few different subgenres. Video essays can be broken down into visual subgenres and thematic subgenres. This one is a whole can of worms that we'll get to in a little bit. It's the thematic subgenres that everyone is more familiar with. There's film and media analysis. These are video essays that are primarily analyzing film or general media. There's documentary, which offers a higher production quality and a more objective recalling of events. There's video game review, ? These talk about video games specifically in a way that's deeper and thought-provoking, in a way that review sort of seems like it's selling it short. There's plagiarism tubers, and these are all YouTubers who just steal video essays and pass them off as their own, which the irony of this being that I just stole this list from H-Bomber Guy, so let's add me to it, I guess. There's commentary, and a lot of commentary channels just occasionally slip into the video essay territory, even though a decent chunk of their work doesn't really qualify. I don't think anyone would associate Pay Money Wubby with being a video essayist, but Mystery Meet a Search for the Truth, I do think counts. It's a deep dive into an image we've all seen, trying to answer a question no one has tried to answer before, with real testimonials from actual professionals and on-the-ground journalism. It just so happens to be about poop.
What kind of colors can poop come in?
But it still counts. In stark contrast to that, we also have educational and science channels as well. And lastly is just miscellaneous general video essayists. These are essayists that don't really stick to one particular topic, but a large spread, ranging from social issues to vaping ads to the Roblox oof. It's just a lot of stuff. I don't know. Of course, not everything cleanly fits into its own subgenre, and whether or not all of these people should even count as video essayists is a matter of perspective, but for now, I think it's safe to cast a wide enough net so we could really talk about things thoroughly. But that brings us to the main point of this entire video. the green screen video essay. The green screen video essay is almost its own genre on YouTube, not being defined by subject matter, but being defined by their visual presentation. What makes green screen video essays stand out from regular video essays is that there is an added sense of immersion. With green screen video essays, I can be anywhere, be anyone, which I know what I'm saying is a no-brainer, you know, that's how green screen works, but as a creative tool, as a storytelling tool, as a joke-telling tool, it's extremely effective and insanely fun. There's a real sense of versatility you get when you use a green screen. I mean, I could improvise anything, and future me editing will make it work. Like, oh look, now I'm juggling, and now, I be a pirate, and what's that? Ronald Reagan is here. Let's get him. Take this, you bastard. It's like Blue's Clues for an older age demographic. You know, an actor standing in a fake world, addressing you directly, and sometimes interacting with the things on screen in a way that can't really be done elsewhere. I can be anywhere, in any time period. It just feels full of imagination and whimsy in a way a lot of other visual styles just kind of can't really do. Even when a green screen video essay does the bare minimum visually, you know, no graphics, no sound effects, no keyframing, it still does a surprisingly thorough job at immersion. Sometimes just simply being there can make a huge difference. You know, this is one of the reasons why I find voiceover essays to be kind of boring. Even the bare minimum of a green screen essay offers more than just my omnipotent voice over stock footage. Set Dec Essayists can totally achieve this same thing through backgrounds, costumes, and even stuffed animals, you name it, in a way that can be 10 times more impressive because it is actually grounded in realism, but it can also be a little bit more static in nature. These operate more so as theater than it does film, allowing for much longer, unbroken takes, and allowing for the focus to be purely on the words being said without a bunch of post-production visual stimuli. On one hand, it is more professional and clearer, it allows the words to speak for themselves, but on the other hand, this is kind of it. It's like a visually thought out TED Talk or a podcast as opposed to like a Michael Bay movie. It's purely a matter of personal expression and what the essayist's strengths are outside of writing itself. Because at the end of the day, it is not at all about who is the most professional, it's about personal expression and art and theatrics regardless of what form it takes. And I love all of it. And speaking of theater, the best aspect of the video essay, in my opinion, is the unique relationship to the fourth wall. The most important element of a video essay is the personal aspect, both with how it's presented, the speaker's unique perspective, niche subject matter, personal background, etc. But all of that totally neglects to mention the most personal aspect of a video essay. It's the fact that I'm talking to you specifically. I am not maintaining a fourth wall. Most YouTubers aren't. And I'm kind of surprised that this huge aspect of this dynamic almost never gets explicitly acknowledged. I mean, people lose their goddamn minds whenever a movie character breaks the fourth wall, but none of that excitement makes its way into videos specifically designed around there never being a fourth wall to begin with. Like, on a personal note, even though it sounds stupid, I kind of quit pursuing film in order to do this, for a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons, as childish as it sounds, is that there's just something cringy and stupid about the fakeness of it all that I just couldn't, I really struggled to get over. Like, I could put on a funny hat and a monocle and get a whole bunch of period-accurate clothing and spend $2 million on making everything perfect just so I could speak in a British voice and attempt to convince you that we're really in Whitechapel, but like, that's stupid. We're adults here. We all know that we're just playing pretend. It's much easier to just talk to you. When it comes to video essays, what you see is what you get. You know, I'm just a dude talking about stuff that I think is interesting. There's no facade here. Doesn't this feel infinitely more real than watching Alec Baldwin pretend his name is Jake? No, it isn't. Does anyone ever internally refer to Tom Cruise as his character's name in anything ever? No, you just think that's Tom Cruise in a bunch of situations. Literally no one is fooled. And for me personally, this feels better. This feels better. When movies decide to erode the fourth wall or break it on occasion, it feels like a fun little treat and not an intrinsic part of the film itself. Not really breaking the fourth wall, but mostly just like tapping on it briefly. The only time something really fully breaks through is with projects like Inside, which, let's be real, that has more DNA with every YouTube video than it does Red One. There's this whole notion going around, a whole debate on Twitter, that one of the reasons why cinema is dying is that you could watch great stuff for free on YouTube, which I think is an incorrect opinion, but I think it does touch on a core aspect of the audience as a participant in these types of videos, and in movies that's rarely the case. And in today's day and age where everyone is lonelier than ever, this connection here is infinitely more palpable than if you were to just watch the Garfield movie. I still think that it's an objectively incorrect opinion, but I think that there is an emotional layer to this that went completely overlooked. But shifting gears for a bit, another comparison between video essays and movies that I find fascinating is that Hollywood can spend millions of dollars on VFX to make a shot look convincing, but if it's even slightly off, even just subconsciously, the immersion gets broken and everyone hates it. But in a weird way, this does not actually apply to this at all. Obviously, what you're watching right now does not look better than this. But since this is trying to convince you that it's real, and I'm not even bothering, that breaks your immersion, and this doesn't. Not having to maintain a fourth wall is incredibly liberating for both me and for you. I don't have to actually convince you that I'm in Egypt or underwater or flying through the sky. There is a palpable cheapness to nearly every green screen video essay, but it is a cheapness that all of us, subconsciously and consciously, completely overlook like you would a stage play. It's the difference between seeing through the facade versus being let into the facade. One breaks your immersion, the other almost deepens it in a weird way. Like, the internet is ruthless. You can and will be insulted for anything and everything. And yet, I have never once had someone tell me that my effects were garbage. Because not even the assholes care. Do you realize how crazy that is? But you know who does get tons of backlash whenever they have bad visual effects? Every Marvel movie ever. Suck it, Hollywood. And that's why essays are better, more real, and more raw than all of corporate would. Except this isn't true at all. I'm not actually talking to you. Shocker, I know. Every word I'm saying, even though it feels like I'm speaking candidly, I wrote a month ago. I'm not looking at you. I'm reading a teleprompter. Most of us are if you look into our eyes. Mistakes are edited out. There's multiple takes of every single line, including this one. This is a character, but it's a character of me. I am still technically acting right now, but I'm also being 100% genuine, and I'm not really sure where the line is. The only time your immersion really gets broken is when the fakeness of it all is outright acknowledged, like what I'm doing right now, or when the topic clunkily shifts into doing some sort of ad read or shameless merch plug. Like this one. I got brand new green screen long sleeves. They're so cool. You should get them. I also restocked all of the killer content long sleeves too. This has been something people have been yelling me to restock for like 2 years at this point. All of this is available right now in my brand new merch store. I'm not paying Bandcamp fees any longer. It's all mine now. I've been getting a lot of complaints recently that too many of my merch designs look too good, so I figured I was overdue for making a stupid shirt instead, so I made one. Holy crap, Lois, this reminds me of the time I was a high contrast t-shirt designer. Does anyone like this? I don't know, I'll find out. I also got some brand new Industrial Forest merch too, and I'm also selling some used stuff. I don't know, there's a lot, and I got even more stuff planned for the future. All of them will sell out eventually, and some of them will not be reprinted, so get them quick, because I think they're pretty cool. But alright, let's get back on track and talk about what makes an essay good to begin with. Essays are an interesting medium because it's something that nearly everyone on planet Earth has done before, but probably only like 4% has ever actually sincerely put a lot of effort into. We've all written an essay on some bullshit we don't care about because that's just a major part of going to school. It's a pretty universal experience everyone has done at least once. You know, you wait until the night before an essay is due, you look up the topic on Wikipedia, copy it beat by beat, but just kind of rearrange the sentence structure and the words to cover your tracks. These guys know what's up. Then you turn it in, you get a B+, and you never think about it again. You know, writing essays is so easy when you just don't give a shit. But for better or for worse, writing an essay on something that you're actually really passionate about, that there is no real prior documentation on, from scratch, getting all your thoughts and turning it into something cohesive, let alone good and entertaining, and having it resonate with hundreds of thousands of people on a platform that might outlive you is a totally different ballgame than having your teacher grade it while half watching The Office in the background. All the years of writing essays prior to college, almost none of that information can actually be applied to this. Even if you're amazing at writing essays at a high academic level, if it's boring and doesn't resonate with people... I used to think it was annoying that all my favorite creators would only upload once a month or once every 2 months, but Yeah, man, that's just how long it takes. Unless if you have a team of employees on your payroll to write and edit things for you, or you steal everything, or make ChatGPT pump out low-effort slop, good video essays they just take a while, man. All right, so there are two key aspects that make video essays special. One is being a decent essay, and two is entertainment value. Each one is made up of different elements like visual stimuli, passable writing ability, weird niche subject matter, general flow, offering your own perspective, humor, etc. Even if all of these elements aren't necessary for every single style of video essay, if it's implemented correctly, it can almost improve basically everything. Even more serious video essays can be improved by just adding in a little pinch of humor. It adds more than just jokes. It also gives more personality, offers a different perspective, and adds more variety to the writing. It's more than just being juvenile. It does actually serve a legitimate purpose if it's executed appropriately. Nearly all video essays work with the same structural building blocks, but it's the uniqueness of each individual voice and style that makes or breaks a video. For example, despite all these people having a very different visual style, and they would fall into their own different subcategories, they are, at its base, kind of presenting information the exact same way. And even video essays that don't typically utilize the speaker in any capacity are typically edited in a similar way, just with voiceover. However, by comparison, it does make green screen video essays look a little bit like that sexist meme from 2010. Voiceover video essays present the information, while green screen video essays present the same information, but demand that you also kind of look at my face a little bit. Technically, we don't need to be here at all, but I personally feel a little bit more engaged with what someone is saying when I can see them, plus it's fun and it adds more to the personal aspect, which makes this dynamic feel more tangible, like a FaceTime versus a podcast, but even I will admit that, yeah, that's kind of just what we're doing. And I just love it. I love video essays. They're scrappy, they are personal, they're a great place to learn things and appreciate things in a new way. In a time where nearly everything feels like some corporation has some say in everything, just diluting art until it becomes useless fast food dribble, video essays feel like a real source of homegrown, personal, passionate videos that also has something to say. Whether or not it's green screened, a PNG, a cartoon representation, or some other various stand-in, it's kind of the same at its base. And it is from this base that everyone builds their style on top of. Like, Noodle and Funky have some of the coolest visual aesthetics out of any video essayist, and it honestly is like the highest standard that anyone can strive for. Their videos just radiate personality, and the way the visuals feel like an extension of said personality is really impressive. You could see their backgrounds and other art forms really shine through in a way I would never be able to pull off. Noodle even changes format frequently and experiments with new ways of showing it. Like, the dude is like a YouTube visionary, which I know that sounds like a little bit much, but like, I don't know who else is producing work this good, this frequently. It is a miracle he doesn't upload once a year. Super Eye Patch will have utilized color with a different blend mode to sort of simulate light being cast on him, and I know that there are more professional ways of doing that, but this is so stripped down, easy, and like gets the job done just fine that I will be stealing it moving forward. Oh, god damn it. Doodly is both animated and a VTuber, kinda. Like, that's such a cool combination of things that can only be born out of passion, because any sane person would look at the amount of work that would take and just say, fuck it, I'm gonna be in front of a green screen instead. And speaking of green screen, the gold standard for the green screen video essay is, of course, Nakey Jakey. I mean, come on, it's not even a competition. You can see his influence in editing in nearly all green screen video essays, and you can see the influence of his writing in nearly every single video that tries to talk about things in a fun way. It's fun, it's playful, it's insightful, and when he gets serious, you shut up and you listen. It's great. But when you become the face of like an entire genre of creation, there can sometimes be this thing that I like to call the PewDiePie effect, and it's not what you think it is, don't worry. You see, between 2012 and 2014, it was impossible to have a gaming channel without just being a PewDiePie clone. Those of you who lived through it know exactly what I'm talking about. It was kind of a plague that resulted in a lot of beef and frustration among the YouTube gaming community, because a lot of the general public did genuinely think that PewDiePie invented the concept of yelling at a horror game. Everyone did eventually catch on to the fact that that's just what gaming content is, but it did take like 2-ish years to figure that out. And much like how PewDiePie owned the social copyright of all gaming content for like 2 years, there was like a good 1.5 year period of time where you couldn't really be a comedian who's good at editing and use a green screen, even for a second, without people just suggesting that you get a yoga ball. And funny enough, most people have totally forgotten about this, but if you go back even further, one of the first large channels to do anything involving a green screen, like consistently, was Cinnamon Toast Ken. If you did gaming content with a green screen, you were just ripping him off. Nearly all genres are born this way, and we are just doomed to repeat it until the end of time, I swear to God. Oh, you made a first-person shooter? Yeah, dude, it's called a Doom clone. Be original. Ooh, I have down-tuned guitars. Yeah, Black Sabbath already did that, dude. You guys can go home. We don't need any more. You end up seeing this kind of thing a lot the more time you spend on the internet. I mean, like, silly internet songs have gone through, like, 4 different renditions over the years. Every form of expression will have this to some degree, even if it's just something minor like using green screen on YouTube or for feature films. There's always going to be something that it gets like pinned to socially. But there is one green screen video essayist who does something so different that I've never really seen before. FD Signifier films all of his videos in front of a green screen, but almost never actually keys it out or does anything crazy with it. It's just a green backdrop. I don't feel like you understand how crazy that is. That's like, imagine if they just kept Andy Serkis as like Gollum in the final cut of the movie, or Rocket Raccoon. Like, it's just bizarre, especially because it's like it's a harsh color to look at. It doesn't look good, and it takes like 1 second to fix. And don't get me wrong, this is not criticism. It does actually help him stand out significantly. I mean, do you look at this and you picture another Jakey clone? No. Exactly. His videos are great, by the way. He has a background in being a teacher, so each one of his videos both feels like a lesson from the teacher that everyone likes and a YouTube video simultaneously. He's great. But on that note, the next chapter of things I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to let him set up.
Why are video essayists assholes? What's wrong with us?
The biggest elephant in the room that I haven't quite acknowledged yet is how normal people don't do shit like this. And I don't mean that in like a, oh, I'm so different kind of way. Like, I mean, seriously, nearly every video essay writer is socially isolated, overly passionate, has at least a handful of mental problems, entertainment nerds, and just the ones who aren't only upload like once a year. It is objectively off-putting to set up a whole mini production just to talk about your opinions on things for 2 hours and then spend 4 weeks editing it. Most rational human beings don't care that much about anything, but video essayists, our heads are so far up our own asses that we do it for years. A common criticism of video essayists in general are usually that the host is either annoying, overly enthusiastic, pretentious, or having a theater kid energy. And even though I've only been personally accused of 2, if you scroll down far enough on any video essay, you will see all of these things. But despite this being common, valid criticism, like what did you expect? You clicked on a 2-hour-long video exploring the themes of rescue heroes and you're surprised that the person who made it is kind of on the spectrum? Like, what did you think, man? You're surprised that someone who spent 2 months on a video is going to be thoroughly opinionated on the topic? I mean, that goes without saying, doesn't it? People who go out of their way to write scripts, set up a camera, and talk to it for hours, act, produce, edit in solitude for an extended period of time, all for the sake of trying to entertain people, have theater kid energy. Yeah. No shit. Like, I remember there was legitimate shock among the commentary community when people found out Danny Gonzalez's dirty little secret. His one-man show that he did in high school. This shocked people. How could he have a theater background? Like, it's so much different than what he normally does, which, you know, is a one-man show. Who could have seen that one coming? Having any sort of background in anything remotely entertainment-based is the only subject that's viewed strictly as an insult and not a natural prerequisite for interest in the subject. Like, seriously, imagine this revelation, but with any other subject. That'd be like being genuinely shocked that an NFL player played football in college. He just never struck me as the type. Like, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but every actor and actress, including the ones that you think are cool and that you like, those are all, to some degree, adult theater kids. I know, I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong, I also find theater kids to be obnoxious, but a background in entertainment to some degree is, like, totally normal, and I feel like people forget that. I mean, if I'm being honest, the only reason why I don't wear my glasses in my videos is because I don't feel like it helps to beat the dork allegations. You know what I mean? So even though there's a lot of valid criticism that video essayists tend to fall into one of these categories, with all due respect, wishing that there was a video essayist not made by dorks is like wishing that there was an amazing basketball player who's under 4 feet tall. You might not like it, but that is kind of a requirement. It leads to this weird dynamic where people want charismatic, well-written video essays, but they don't want the cringe personal investment and passion that comes along with it. But a lot of people don't realize that without these things, video essays just don't get written. And if they do, they're low effort garbage slop. Which leads me to... Alright, now it's time for the shit-talking segment. That's always fun. So we've already covered that essay is a surprisingly vague term, oftentimes being defined totally differently depending on setting and who is saying it. But one of the key aspects to an informal essay, which is what the vast majority of video essays would be classified under, is the personal element. Self-revelation, individual tastes, humor, style, rambling, structure, unconventionality, or novelty of theme, etc. And therefore, in my opinion, if it's something that ChatGPT can soullessly spit out, plot synopsis, summaries of internet drama, surface-level garbage that can be pumped out on a frequent basis, it's not a real video essay. I know it sounds like elitism, but we do have to draw the lines somewhere. And the ever-growing amount of content grifters bandwagon hopping for views, it's really important to draw a line between that and the stuff born out of passion. I know this section is kind of rude, but much like how a children's drawing with a speech bubble doesn't really qualify it as a comic book, I don't really think summarizing Wizards of Waverly Place and adding commentary like, whoa, she used magic? That's crazy, counts as a video essay, you know what I mean? Even just searching for video essays on YouTube, one of the first things that comes up is a playlist called Video Essays to Fall Asleep To. The fact that the name of the playlist is literally implying that you're not supposed to actually watch this shit just speaks for itself. We've lost the plot a little bit here. The general fast foodification of content means that people want a new thing right now, and they don't really care whether or not it's actually good, just as long as it's more and it's now. And video essays cannot fill that void. Just point blank. They take too much time and too much passion. But if you're a content grifter who sees video essays as a cool thing you could capitalize off of, you're going to need to make it fill that void. And the only way to do that is to have it be half-baked, usually stolen slop. And as much as people love complaining about half-baked slop, boy do they shovel it into their mouths, because it does numbers, dude. And here's the thing, joking about not caring, not putting forth effort, and serving your audience slop is still serving your audience zero-effort slop. You still suck. The self-awareness doesn't help. If you're not passionate over the thing you're making a video about, why the fuck would I listen to you? I know that sounds harsh, but no, really. Why on earth would I do that? There's nothing wrong with fast food every now and again. We all indulge. Not everything needs to be a high-effort labor of love all the time, but video essays do need passion and a theme and a unique voice that can offer a perspective that you can't get elsewhere. That's part of it. And let me tell you, there is a lot of people just reading whatever bullshit ChatGPT pops out from the phrase, write a video essay about Evangelion. Anyone who actually gives a shit can see it from a mile away, but it will still get 100,000 views for 10 minutes worth of work, so of course they're gonna just keep doing it. And I don't want to be mean. Believe it or not, I actually don't like being mean. I know I'm good at it, but I don't like doing it, but I remember when Anthony Padilla dropped an assumptions video interviewing some video essayists, and the thumbnail was implying that all video essayists are just drama channels, which was a take I've never even heard before, let alone thought it was a popular enough sentiment that it was the best performing thumbnail. Granted, some video essays do occasionally kick a hornet's nest a little bit, but I don't understand how anyone can look at analysis of art and culture and have the takeaway that it's a T channel. Until I watched D'Angelo's videos. Then I was like, oh, that's just a drama channel. I get it now. He seems like a nice, smart guy, by the way. I have no qualms with him, but this is a call-out video, not a video essay. He's directly addressing the guilty party by name in the entire video. If this is a video essay, then scene drama on Twitter is a novel. Don't get me wrong, it's good to call out abusers, but doing that doesn't all of a sudden give it a new genre, you know what I mean? And I mean this in the nicest way possible, but if him scrolling through Reddit threads reading it out loud counts as a video essay, then I'm pretty sure Yai would count as a video essay too. I know sometimes the lines do get very blurry, but surely we can't dilute what a video essay is this far. I mean, that's just kind of absurd. Also, any channel that makes the downfall of blank videos, there's no nice way of saying this. Most of them read at a 5th grade level, and the fact that they're classified as video essays is kind of offensive. I know that they're just content grifters leeching off of drama before moving on to whatever else gets them views, but you can still be a grifter and have sentences flow into each other. I don't think it's a requirement to have negative charisma. And I know what I'm saying is mean, but have you seen any of these videos? Listen to them read a script and tell me with a straight face that they're good at it. We all know what I'm talking about. It's almost as if every part of a sentence is said in a vacuum and then clunkily stitched together in post. Like, we all know half of those videos are written by AI, but like, Jesus, man, at least have ChatGPT spit it out at a reading level you could handle, you know? Like, fucking God. And I know I'm being a dick, but I truly believe that any channel that is entirely dedicated to dancing on the grave of anyone with any inkling of clout, swarming like piranhas when there's a new celebrity to stomp on, are totally fine to criticize. It's the internet equivalent of those magazines you see at grocery stores, entirely dedicated to just drama. But much like fast food, a little bit of drama is also fine sometimes, you know? We've all done it. I can't think of a single YouTuber who didn't make fun of this video. But if your channel is entirely dedicated to it, you're not a video essayist, dude. You're TMZ. But I also think it really goes to show just how important having a background in entertainment or education is when it comes to writing video essays, because even though people kind of bitch and moan when it's written by a mentally ill dork, the alternative is videos like this. Brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. I think H-Bomber Guy actually put it best when he described his videos as a primal hallucinatory nightmare. Even though it's played for laughs, most video essays are just watching someone go off the rails on a particular topic for no real reason other than it's driving us crazy, and we feel the need to fully articulate it and make it your problem. Like, I fully believe that discussing a show can totally be a video essay, but the speaker actually has to give a shit about what they're saying. The topic of a video needs to be speaking to the writer like the Green Goblin mask does to Willem Dafoe in order for a deep dive into anything to be considered remotely essay related. Does that make sense? A video essay needs an almost intense level of personal investment, and I don't think anyone is looking at these videos and saying, wow, they seem so passionate over this subject. Like, for example, I think that there's a decent argument that documentary style and science channels don't count as video essays due to the lack of the heightened personal aspect. The main difference being the attempt or the illusion of being an unbiased narrator. Channels like these would typically use language like numerous reports suggest that Mr. Smith was difficult to work with, whereas a video essay would most likely say, Mr. Smith seemed to annoy the shit out of everyone. Functionally, the information is the same, but it is conveyed in a totally different way. It's more sterile, less personal, and also a lot more objectively true, but also a tad bit more boring. Ultimately, though, it's all just one big gray area. There's no actual strict differentiating lines between what's what. Sometimes commentary channels can qualify as an essay, and sometimes drama videos can as well sometimes. You may agree with me, you may disagree with me on some of this, all of this, it's fine, it doesn't really matter. I just needed to get all of these thoughts out of my system, and at the end of the day, I don't really have any authority on this topic. In fact, most video essayists have no real authority to discuss anything that they talk about. Video essays are born out of passion, but passion doesn't really give any authority over a subject at all. Yeah, there's a lot of research and reading of books and interviews and regurgitating of facts and what have you, but it is ultimately filtered through the lens of opinions, perspective, and personality. Like, Alyssa Grenfell is a great place to learn about Mormon culture considering she spent her entire life growing up in it. Unless if you disagree with her, then she is the worst source of information on Mormon culture and she should be banned. There is no real objective standpoint on whether or not she is good at what she does. It is all filtered through the lens of personal belief. And like, I hate to burst the bubble, but like 90% of film essays, those are written by film student dropouts. We never graduated. This does not mean that the perspectives are invalid, by the way. There is a lot of truth, a lot of different viewpoints that can be explained and expanded upon that can be super helpful. There is still a lot to learn from these videos. But at the end of the day, we have no real authority over anything, really. And if we did, frankly, we wouldn't be on YouTube. We'd be doing something more important, probably. One of these days, we might get someone who gets a PhD in marine biology for the sole purpose of making the best video essay on SpongeBob. But that's probably never going to happen. Guys, we're just going to have to settle with someone with autism who's really into SpongeBob making that video, and you know what? It's probably going to be better. I mean, you all remember when schooling was online. We've seen professors make video versions of their lectures, and they're kind of garbage. I am not the best person to speak on the subject of video essays. I'm not even the best person to speak about any of these subjects. There is almost definitely someone out there who can talk about transgressive art through typography in a more concise, thorough way, I mean, I don't have a degree in logoology, but I absolutely have a better internal catalog than most average people, and I was frustrated with how this entire art form never gets talked about in a way that does it justice, so I gave it my best shot. Same with this video. There can be a little bit of imposter syndrome you can feel when making videos like this. Like, there are absolutely people out there who are infinitely more capable of making this video, but better. All my videos, but better. But here's the thing. They're not. Like, I've voiced this a few times in the past, but a decent chunk of my videos are born out of two emotions: passion and frustration. I eventually get frustrated and tired of waiting for someone to make a video on something that I think is really cool and underrepresented, so I just say, fine, move, I'll do it. Shakespeare might rise from the grave and make a YouTube video explaining all of his work tomorrow. But probably not, so let's just watch some entertaining nerd do it. It won't be flawless, but it's objectively better than waiting for a video that will never come. That's why the personal aspect of video essays is so important. It's not just for entertainment's sake, but because how a piece of art makes you feel, your own personal perspective, thoughts, revelations, how you personally connect one piece of media to another. The only thing you can definitively have abject knowledge over everyone else on is personal experience. Like, I don't give a shit about Transformers. I know nothing about it. But this random guy does, and he's going to talk about all the body horror elements and all the Transformers comics. That's awesome. I want to hear. Is he qualified to talk about any of this? I don't know, but he's passionate enough to make it into a video in the first place, so I'm seated. I'm not interested in his credentials. I'm interested in his opinion, his research, how he draws parallels to the genre, because it's exploring a topic I've never even thought about before. All of these videos I made have the sole purpose of thinking an art form or topic is underrepresented and wanting to change your perspective so you can appreciate them on a deeper level. And I don't really think that there is an educational bar or perceived authority over a subject preventing me from doing that. The only real definitive thing that I can talk about with abject knowledge over everyone else on is me, my thoughts, my opinions, and my personal experiences. So I'm going to talk about that. Maybe this is only going to be interesting to people who write or are interested in making stuff like this, so I'm just going to speak candidly about my own personal relationship between essays and all the pros and cons that I never really hear anyone talk about. The main structured part of this video is over. These are just a bunch of thoughts and insight. I couldn't really figure out how to seamlessly work into an essay, so I'm just going to vomit it at you. One of the worst parts about making video essays, or just stuff on general on the internet, is that mistakes are inevitable, and there is nothing you can do about it. You're gonna forget something, and it's going to make you want to scream, and there is a 100% chance of this happening. I originally made this video on band merchandise because I thought it was interesting how many bands kept doing collaborations with makeup companies. That was the original thought that made me start writing the script to this video to begin with. And you may notice that I mentioned everything except for makeup palettes. That's like going to the store because you need to get milk and then you just buy $200 worth of food and completely forget the milk. That, except it's in front of 200,000 people. When I talked about video game radios, I totally forgot to mention Old Guards of Asgard, which was one of the main reasons I started to write the video in the first place. And it's just the milk analogy a second time. All of these things haunt me, by the way. Mistakes are public, embarrassing, and inevitable, so get used to that. It's as much fun as it sounds. Also, as a video editor, video essays are some of the most impressive places to find great editing. A lot of the time, traditional editing is just keeping a good flow of things, timing, logical presentation of the shot list, etc. But video essays also have to incorporate a billion other things while keeping it as fast-paced as possible without feeling rushed, and also inject a metric ton of information visually instead of having to explain every single thing verbatim. This is also a writing challenge as well. Like, I usually start off with an insane amount of notes, but some of it I can't get rid of because it's important, but if I read it all, it takes too long, so I have to figure out which half I can say and which half I can show. That way I can get across double the amount of information in half the time. It's a weird, funky little writing puzzle. You know, show don't tell is usually a rule in terms of narrative film structure, but it also works for presentational as well. Okay, rapid fire round because I have way too many thoughts on making stuff. 1, hyper editing is not at all necessary, but it can be a flourish or garnish on top of an already good essay, and I think that that's pretty cool. It also vastly increases rewatchability. You will notice jokes and visual bits the second or third time watching these videos, and the same cannot be said for these videos. Not that that's necessary, but it is a bonus. 2, people want something that's quick, to the point, and doesn't waste their time. but also acknowledges every conceivable nuance relevant to the topic in an in-depth way. It's a balancing act that's essentially impossible, and it makes writing these videos feel like a Sisyphean task. It's great. 3. Every video essay has to use the Silent Hill OST as their background music. It's a blood oath we all took. It's a requirement. 4. If you equate passion with cringe, you will convince yourself that you're above anything that makes life worthwhile, and that's fucking stupid. This is both something to keep in mind while writing and filming, but it's also just a good life lesson. Number 5. Making video essays as a smaller channel is a horrible idea from a business standpoint. Sometimes if a video doesn't do well, it equates to like $300 in exchange for a month and a half's worth of work. And there are homeless people that make more money in that same length of time. Not that that's happened to me or anything, so unless if you have a strong sense of personal satisfaction, making video essays is really not a good idea unless if you're also selling merch or have a Patreon, stuff like that. Number 6, sometimes you're going to have an idea totally independently only to find out that someone else has done the same thing, and even though you didn't steal it, now you can't do that idea because now it will look like stealing. That's always fun. Over the years, I wrote and shot and then rewrote and then reshot and then rewrote again a whole video on cringe culture, only to find out about ContraPoint's video on cringe just like a year ago, so now I can't do that video. It's like 40% pretty much the exact same, and I might turn the remaining 60% into a Patreon exclusive or something, but ultimately, I can't really make this video without it just kind of being lame and unoriginal. Number 7, chapters are nice, especially for longer video essays. It's a nice quality of life feature that I wish all YouTubers utilized. Number 8, my mom is a professor and a PhD dropout, and my dad is a deadbeat, so if I seem like I'm like 50% smart and 50% a loser, my genetics agree. I think that's the general vibe that I try and lean into when it comes to writing my videos, because even though I don't really think it's an interesting perspective because it's just my own, I think that there's something that's kind of refreshing about a weird middle ground between stoner type shit and like genuine art appreciation and analysis. And I don't know, this seemed like a funny thing to bring up, but I couldn't really figure out how to work it into the script, so I'm just kind of tacking it onto this list. And speaking of which, the occasional looser writing of video essays allows you to go off on non-essay tangents and change the subject on a dime just because you can. For example, here's some legitimate production advice, because fuck it. When it comes to green screen presentational media, a lot of people when watching videos like this will typically look at 2 of your features, your hands gesturing and your face talking. So wearing a long sleeve shirt that is more in contrast with your skin tone cuts down on the visual noise and puts more emphasis on these 2, technically 3 things. If I were to film this video while wearing a white short sleeve t-shirt, the emphasis on the most important features are kind of lost. Also, long sleeves just generally cut down on making erosion a little less obvious, which is something that happens when you key things out. It doesn't really matter, but I do find it to be a little cleaner visually, so please learn from my mistakes and just wear a contrasty long sleeve. But hands down, the best and worst aspect about making stuff online is the comments. I mean this sincerely. One of the most beautiful aspects of making stuff on the internet and being passionate over something is sharing that passion with others and having them share it right back. Gathering thousands of people that are also passionate about the same thing as you all over the world together in one place is amazingly gratifying, hard to fathom, and I am so, just insanely grateful for it. And it is also one of the biggest downsides, because I don't know if you're familiar with this, but humanity also sucks. Making things on the internet feels a lot like this exchange. No joke, no exaggeration. If you want to make stuff on the internet, get ready to receive this every single day. I know it comes with the territory, and I'm grateful, but fuck. This segment is just an excuse for me to complain about the different genres of annoying comments, but it is also a genuine list as to what kinds of people to expect sometimes when making a video like this. First up is the know-it-all who knows nothing. This is someone who is snotty while simultaneously just straight up wrong. A good 25% of the time, they also have a Ben Shapiro profile picture, which is just a joke that tells itself. The guy that clicked on the video but is mad that they are watching the video. These are more so just drive-by insults, but it's also kind of funny because it kind of just reads as someone who might just have dementia. There's the person correcting you even though you're not wrong. These are tricky. Let's say you mention someone named Gwen. You will eventually get a comment saying, actually her name is Guinevere. She only goes by Gwen. You're not wrong, but neither am I. Why type that? What's wrong with you? And lastly, the person scolding you for missing something that you thoroughly covered, they just weren't paying attention. This is the most common and the most irritating, in my opinion. I mean this with no exaggeration. A good 90% of these comments scolding me for neglecting to mention something, I mention verbatim. 10% of the time, it is on me. Mistakes are inevitable, but legitimately, the vast majority of the time, it's there, you just didn't notice. It's understandable. There's a lot of information I'm throwing at you. I don't hold it against you if you miss something, but like, do you have to be a dick about it? Do you have to phrase things in the snottiest way possible? Take a fucking politeness course, Jesus. And every single thing that I just mentioned, amplify it by 800% if you're a woman. Because if there's one thing that the internet loves more than correcting and talking over strangers, it's correcting and talking over women. And just from the looks of it, even the compliments they get seem sinister. I don't know how they do it, but they have more strength than I do. Some of this also depends on who your audience is. Like, naturally, I have a lot of metal fans, so 95% of them are wonderful people, and 5% of them are just 2013 Reddit edgelords still. The majority of the wonderful fans won't actually say anything, but 100% of the Reddit edgelords will need to say something, so it ends up being a pretty disproportionate love-hate ratio in terms of vocalization. A good example of this that you could even test for yourself is any sort of tour announcement post from a band. Even if it's a tour that everyone is excited about, that will do really well, sell a bunch of tickets, if 99% of people are stoked for it, 80% of the comments will still just be, why aren't you guys coming to Cleveland? Fuck you, man. I don't know, there's tons of other mildly annoying stuff that doesn't really get talked about, but I wanted to finish this video off by talking about a few different types of phenomenon I see happen within the YouTube essay space that I think are really fascinating, that I never really see anyone talk about openly before. There's a phenomenon that I like to call the quality delay effect, or the Vsauce effect, or the bread tube output problem, or whatever you want to call it. It's when a channel will release videos semi-frequently at the beginning, but as the views increase and as subscriber count increases, there's more and more pressure to up the quality and put more thought into each upload. This makes sense, but it can also be paired with overthinking about uploads. Instead of doing a few days worth of research, it becomes a few weeks, which becomes a few months. And the next thing you know, you go from shorter, semi-frequent uploads to one giant video every year-ish. The higher the quality, the more delayed it is, and it's a trap that's extremely hard to not fall into. Trying to live up to thousands of people's expectations while trying to one-up yourself and challenge yourself while putting out stuff semi-frequently is really difficult for one person to do. Sometimes people will hire a production crew or just general employees like Tom Scott, Super Mega, Meat Canyon, Mr. Beast, what have you. This method seems to work for a lot of people, but it's only feasible if you're making enough money to run a company, which is a lot. This method is cool, and this is not a criticism of these people at all, but it also kind of raises expectations for other YouTubers, which as a one-man operation is a little frustrating. Like, the amount of times people suggest that I just hire an editor is insane. You sound like this. I'm pretty sure I make less than minimum wage off of YouTube. If I were to give someone 100% of my earnings, they would still be underpaid. Don't hold me to the same standards as a 10-person production crew. That's insane. The only real solution that doesn't involve hitting the YouTube lottery multiple times is to just commit to making videos on occasion that aren't perfect. It's a no-brainer in concept, but when it's your turn to maybe disappoint a couple thousand people, it's a little hard to go through with it. I don't really know what my point is, but I've seen it a lot, and as someone who's now kind of gone through it, I wanted to address it, and I don't know. It sucks, right? I guess that's the point. Another phenomenon that I've seen a lot that I think is really fascinating is the more thorough a video essay attempts to become, the more unforgiving people are on it when it comes to criticism. It's kind of hard to describe, but I've seen it loads of times in tons of video essays. If you cover the top 5% of a topic, people are actually surprisingly pretty content with that. But if you cover 96% of a topic, that remaining 4% feels more like an oversight than it does an inevitability, and is ironically going to be met with more criticism than if you just covered 5%. It is both totally understandable and the most backwards bullshit I've ever seen. The more you cover, the more glaring the holes are. Like, if I were to make a video on the most iconic movies of 2024 and the entire video was comprised of 10 movies, the reaction would be pretty good. But God forbid I only talk about 400 movies. 400 movies? Are you stupid? There's thousands, dipshit. The more a video essay attempts to cover, the more it doesn't cover. Even though objectively that is incorrect, that is almost always how it seems to be perceived. And at a certain point, thoroughness has diminishing returns. Like, take this video for example. I have not named every video essayist ever. My list is pretty limited to my own personal scope. But even if I did list every single video essayist that people will remind me about in the comments, then I'd be missing every non-English speaking video essayist because I only speak English. Language barriers are a reasonable blind spot for every single person, but even if I did cover that, then I'd be missing every video essayist on any platform that isn't YouTube. And since some countries just straight up don't have access to YouTube, it's actually kind of problematic that I didn't include them. The bar constantly gets raised higher and higher than you can possibly reach, and the more you stretch to reach it, the higher up it gets pushed. You kind of can't really win. It's a weird paradox of attempting to make anything thoroughly. People don't want a soulless listing of Wikipedia. They want something entertaining and personal. Until they get it. And then there's a little bit of resentment because, well, Wikipedia wouldn't have missed anything. Even though I totally understand it, like, fully and completely, as a person who spends months working on this shit, it's really annoying and hard to discuss without an air of vindictiveness, so sorry. If you dig deep in any subject, you will probably end up digging too deep and self-analyzing. You end up not really talking about the subject anymore and just processing things out loud, having a therapy session alone to a camera. And the next thing you know, a meta-analysis of video essays is long in the rearview mirror and you've gone off topic way too many times. Trying to find a balance between these two is surprisingly difficult when you're in the driver's seat. But regardless, at its core, video essays are for everyone. It does not discriminate for age, religion, sexual orientation, gender expression, income level, language. There are video essays for everyone, and it can be made by anyone. The only thing you really need to create a video essay is having a worldview and the cognitive ability to form words. In the digital age of excess loneliness and unprecedented numbers, video essays seem to be the only time that I'm actually connecting with the person that I'm watching. It's not necessarily true, it's all parasocial, but the level of intimacy found in a video essay is not something that can be found in other forms of content. And I can't speak for other video essayists, but personally, it's one of the times where I feel the most heard. All video essays end by slowing everything down, making things feel more intimate, and by injecting some sort of meaning into why you watched this whole thing to begin with. I know that parts of this video are drenched in meta-ness, but I want to make it clear that this is a love letter to green screen video essays. Because video essays are for everyone, and I am grateful for you for listening to mine. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please consider sharing this video, putting it on some subreddits or whatever, get some merch, do these things, follow me on stuff. You know the drill. This isn't your first YouTube video. Unless if it is, in which case, did any of this make sense? Shout out to Strawberry Acid for the animation and the popsicle stick puppet. You can follow her on Instagram if you want. Massive thank you to all my Patreon supporters for making videos like these even possible to begin with. If you want to join, there's plenty of fun bonus stuff that I can't get away with on YouTube and plenty of like partner pieces like this videos where I talk about some of my favorite video essays. I have some fun new videos that I'm cooking up as we speak, so stick around for those if you want, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, love you, bye.